Welcome back to another episode of the We Grow Together podcast. Today, I am excited to chat with you about something that I feel like most entrepreneurs don't talk about, let alone think about. I feel like this is something that took me a long time to realize in my own entrepreneurial journey, which is how to change your mindset from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. There are two sides to this. There are the pros. You have more freedom in your lifestyle, but oftentimes I think entrepreneurs either go so hard into the freedom that they're having to reel themselves back, or are so used to so much structure and rules that they take a long time to get into the freedom. And the next element is responsibility. Amazing thing with having a job is that you do get paid, and regularly, hopefully. But with entrepreneurship, you are responsible for paying yourself, your employees. You're responsible for whether the job gets done, whether it's 10 o'clock at night or 2 a.m. or 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon that you'd like to go to your kids' game, whatever the case may be. So overall, let's talk about a couple things within shifting your mindset from a structured environment to a more flexible environment. Let's talk about the fun aspects. The fun aspects that I did not realize is I kept trying to fit myself into the box of work starts at 8:30 or work starts at 9, it ends at 5, and I kept trying to fit my life into this box, despite the fact that entrepreneurship, frankly, does not start at 9 and does not end at 5. And what I found was I kept burning the candle at both ends because there were things that I did need to do on evenings or weekends to catch up or move something forward or get a big important project done. It's not that I think that at all times in life that we should be going and working to the maximum. I talk a lot about lifestyle design and choosing at what times you want to be out of balance. But I was constantly finding that I was out of balance in the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey. And it took me a long time to realize that I am just a creative person. I have a lot of creative energy at night, and I can't keep scheduling meetings for 8:30 and 9 a.m. in the morning every single day when I'm going to bed sometimes at 1 a.m. in the morning because I have to finish something. So it took me a long time and conversations with my family and just like my support system and everything to say, okay, I'm the entrepreneur that just is not going to have meetings before 10 a.m. And that was my original go-to is I'm not having meetings before 10 a.m. Currently, you cannot schedule meetings with me before 10 a.m. I may consider it depending on what it is, who it is, where they are, usually Europe. But there's very rare times that I am expected to be anywhere, talk to anyone before 10 a.m. That feels really good. Now I'm at a bit more of a situation in my life where I just want more freedom to do more things like that I want to do in the morning. I want to either work on projects that I want to work on in the morning, or I want to have a more relaxing morning at the farm and not worry about getting out the door, whatever the case may be. I want more flexibility. And so I've now made it so that internally people can only schedule meetings with me afternoon and before 3 p.m. That's the time I'm available to my team. I am available to clients a bit more than that. I think I started it at 10, but I think I'm going to push it back to 11. And then overall, I am always reworking things. I think that's the most important thing to know about entrepreneurship is that it is an experiment and you are constantly learning throughout the process of what works and what doesn't work. And one of the aspects that you need to really reflect on is how is this working with your lifestyle? Of course, do that before you buy the business. I, of course, would not be a good person to open up a smoothie shop as much as I love them, because at some point you will have to be the person that comes in for the shift that you couldn't get coverage for, or whatever the case may be. And I don't want to be that person. It's also been a limiting factor in a lot of different business expansion ideas that I've had. My number one question is always, is this going to be something that works with my lifestyle? Or is this going to be something that detracts from the lifestyle that I'm trying to build? And so when you're thinking of freedom in entrepreneurship, I really encourage you to stop thinking the way that you've always been taught, especially if you worked in big law, big business, or Fortune 500 company or something like that, where you had so much structure. Especially if you've done that for a long time, I really encourage you to consider how you can think outside of the box, how you can do differently than you've seen done before in a way that suits you, suits your business, suits your clients. Obviously, it has to be that trifecta, because if it's only going to suit you and your business and not your clients, you will not have many clients. So you have to find something that meets that trifecta, but think creatively. There are a lot of things that you can do to be differently. And one of the ways that I like to think differently and think creatively is by taking practices that are in other companies or other businesses and seeing experimentally how they might fit in mine. So for instance, something that I would absolutely love to do is get rid of email. It is something very hard to do as an attorney because writing is what we do. But let's face it, surgeons don't email, doctors don't email, most physical therapists don't email, most professionals, aside from accountants, attorneys, etc., don't actually use email. They have scheduling and everything done through their assistant, through a call or something like that. Now, how I have to figure out that situation is, well, I want this to happen. Here's how they do it in other businesses. So let me noodle on this until I can find a solution that I feel meets the trifecta of serves me, serves my business, serves my client. For me, the way that I've been experiencing or experimenting with this is that I have a Calendly and I set up buckets of time for different groups of people. So internal employees can meet with me at certain times. People on my team can do one-on-ones once a month on this specific day. My clients have greater access to me than my employees because they're a lot harder to work around their schedule, whereas my employees, I schedule them. So I also try to schedule people so that I have more people working on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday than I do on Tuesday and Friday, and I try to avoid at all costs meetings with team members on Tuesdays and Fridays. Those are my days to get my work done in the company. So I'm experimenting with that. I'm trying to do it so that I'm not emailing about scheduling. That's the goal. But what I do is I say, hey, here's my calendar. Feel free to schedule some time that works for you. If you need additional availability, let me know, so that I have a catch-all, because I know that just something automated is not going to work for everybody. But that's just one example of how I'm trying to limit email. All of my employees communicate on Slack, not email. So that's another way that I'm trying to eliminate email. My goal is that people aren't expecting me to be answering non-client work emails as my initial step to not having email. And of course, I'll probably always have email, but my point is to not spend so much time in email. I would rather be focusing on being the best attorney that I can be and doing their legal services, rather than the back and forth email nonsense that you get all the time that is not always relevant to what you're doing. And also, how can I have admin support when most of the time clients aren't copying our admin, even though we instruct them, even though we have communication protocols, even though it's in the bottom of my email. So it's a work in progress. The idea isn't that these are going to be perfect changes when you change from structure to flexibility, but rather that you constructively work through that iterative process of determining what works for you, your business, and your clients, finding that trifecta, experimenting along the way, and using this flexibility to not only build a business that serves you, but hopefully also build a business that serves the community better, innovates, doesn't just take what's done to be what must be done, but rather uses creativity to find solutions for things and do things in a way that maybe they haven't been done before. That's my goal with entrepreneurship. I encourage you, if you're thinking of a mindset shift between employee and entrepreneurship, that might be something to think about, because you just don't have to take the status quo. You don't have to do it in your lifestyle. You don't have to do it in your culture. You don't have to do it in the delivery of your services or what they are or anything like that. This is your chance to make an impact on the world, and you get to define what that impact is, what it stands for, what its values are, what interactions that you have with the community, how you serve them, how your employees are served, how you're served. So in my opinion, I love to just start with a blank slate when I'm thinking of a business idea, a process, a system, anything like that, and think of what would I love to be the case, and then what could I establish that could work towards that and can experiment towards that. My goal is to have the greatest impact that I can have between my companies in the various different ways that we do, from the educational brand, the podcast, to sharing my knowledge, to being the best attorney that I can be, to being a positive workplace environment for a corporate law firm doing the very highest levels of mergers and acquisitions, to a good place to co-work, host events, go for a retreat. So for me, there's so many different levels of impact that I want to have in my business. And that was a great opportunistic mindset shift from employee to entrepreneur that I really love. When I was starting my business, I needed a place to create, a place that filled me from the inside out, somewhere that inspired me, helped me make content, a place where I could go to get good work done and host events, gather in community, celebrate one another, host family and friends for gatherings. So I created Flourish Co-working Space in Westchester, Pennsylvania. It's a space that nourishes you from the inside out. It's lush, inspiring environment with hundreds of plants to make you feel like your best self so that you can do your best work and gather in community in a way that's casual, inviting, and just incredible. I hope you check it out. If you need a co-working or event space in Westchester, PA, be sure to visit us and book your co-working or event today. The challenge with lack of structure is that if you don't create it for yourself, no one will create it for you. When you're an entrepreneur, you're responsible for everything. You're responsible for getting paid, paying yourself, paying your bills. You're responsible for getting the client work done, making sure the deliverables are there, delivering the product, opening the doors, even if no one else can. So the buck stops with you in every single way. And I love to talk to my managers that way and train them that way, because it's so important to learn leadership. Above all is the responsibility that you have. For instance, was talking with one of my managers this week about a recurring issue that we've been having. Super simple issue. How are we drafting captions? And there's so many comments that I have to captions and how we're drafting them and what it's going on, and language is included and voice and call to actions and all these things. And to me, it should be a very simple, easy process to get content approved that needs to be approved. But since it's not working, I am responsible, the manager is responsible, and I am responsible. The buck stops with me. What do we need to do to get a better work product across the board, uniformly, across the team? We've been providing feedback. We have a checklist. We have instructions. We have training videos. We have training sessions. We have feedback that we provide on every single thing. How can we do it better to make our lives easier, to make our work product better, to make the brand voice of our companies better? And something that I came up with, super quick, easy example, is we need a document that not only has the instructions and the structure and everything that we have in it, but it also needs to have examples of good, examples of bad, feedback that would be provided, the checklist, all the things needs to be in one document. And then we need to have a training on that specific document to make sure that we're not just setting expectations. The document itself sets the expectation of what is good work product. Then we have the training to communicate that expectation. And then I think we need workshops to be able to work on those skills necessary for the team members to meet the said expectation that's been communicated. So when I'm thinking about responsibility, I'm not just thinking about the buck ends with me. I'm also thinking about what structures and systems and processes are in place for success to be inevitable. That is my goal in every area of my business, that success is inevitable. Every single team member can be successful. Every single project can be successful. every single business unit can be successful, every single business will be successful. That's how I'm thinking about the structure and systems within my business. Not just assigning, but also reporting, and also quality reviews and approvals and structure. So when you're thinking about leadership and the freedom that comes with becoming an entrepreneur, you have to also think of how it's weighted with that responsibility. And I think for some entrepreneurs, it's stressful. And for some people, it's stressful. And perhaps whether that was before in business or lack of development of leadership skills, not understanding how they need to be accountable for the end result and how they need to communicate accountability for the end result all the way down the chain, but knowing that the leadership starts from the top. It starts from the top and then it's influenced down. And then who you elevate within the business structure are those people who epitomize that level of excellence that you desire in your business. And maybe your values aren't a level of excellence. That's certainly my values and making success inevitable. You will have so many other things working against you in the world, whether that be customers, marketplace, competition, so many other things are going to be working against you in the world. Create an environment of success for yourself through structure, systems, processes that are going to make success inevitable, even though you may not always succeed. And then you let go of the expectation that everything will succeed, because it's not that everything will succeed, but rather that you try these things, create systems, processes, inevitability of success, and then you experiment and you keep and enforce and empower and fuel what's working, and you cut losses and reconfigure and pivot what's not working. And that doesn't mean that you give up on things, but it means that you take every opportunity that you can to learn from what you're doing. And these types of values and leadership and perspective are all things that I think as an entrepreneur, you really have to have a mind shift with. And I also think it's important to communicate these to the extent that they align with you, with your management team, with your employees, so that everyone's on the same page. I think it's also really important when you're thinking of creating inevitability of success that you really are self-aware and understand the extent to which you personally, as the owner, as the entrepreneur, as the leader, stand in your business's own way of being successful. I know I am terrible at the boring things. I'm a great strategic thinker. I'm a great detail thinker. I'm great at creating systems and processes, creating visions, designing things. If someone sends me something in the mail that I need to respond to, I probably won't check the mail for a month. I probably won't open the letter for 5 months, maybe. And then the likelihood that I've responded in an appropriate amount of time is sometimes problematic. And it tends to only usually be problematic in the event that it's very important. But of course, 99% of the mail that I get is not important. But the couple of things that I do get is very important. I don't answer my phone. I'm not very good at answering email. I'm very good at answering email for clients. I'm not very good at answering emails for things that I think people can Google. Customer service is not my strong suit. I'm a little bit too blunt and honest to be the people pleaser, customer service, identity person. That's not my persona at all. So while I will be good at these things when necessary, it is so much easier for my businesses to succeed when I have people in place, processes in place to work around my own idiosyncrasies. So it's okay to not be good at everything, but you are still responsible for the things needing to get done. So even if it is self-reflection and admitting what you and your business need to be successful, that is just as important as creating structure in your business, is creating structure around you so that you and your idiosyncratic self will not self-destruct your business and lifestyle. That's the goal here. Keep you being successful despite yourself, which is not always easy, but makes life a hell of a lot more fun when you can enjoy going through life and going through business and not lighting fires everywhere you go, like Mr. James, my fiance, soon-to-be husband, who is presently lighting my farm on fire acres at a time in what he likes to call controlled burns until something starts burning that he didn't expect to be burning, which is then not controlled burns. We love to see things burn. James loves it, I think, more than anybody. He is for sure the biggest pyromaniac I have ever met. But don't light your business on fire. That's not fun. Don't do that. So if you don't want to light your business and life on fire, here's some good tips on that. The number one question I'm asked is, how do I do all the things I do? So I put this into a course, a workbook, and a workshop where you can find all the little details about how I do this on a daily basis. And I've called it the Wild Ambition Lifestyle Design Course, Workbook, and Workshop. Transform your dreams into reality with guided vision setting, storyboarding, journaling, and all the tools I use to bring my dreams to life, with over 100 lessons, 200 plus pages of workbooks, and lifetime access so you can return to it whenever you need to. The course itself is that iterative process of how we continue to evolve over time to be the best version of ourselves. If you are an ambitious individual, if you want to make your dreams come true, I think you'll really love Wild Ambition, and I encourage you to check it out in the show notes. Start your journey today. Enroll now to dream and live with wild ambition. All right, so let's talk about the transition and the movement from employee to entrepreneur. First off, it starts months, years, sometimes decades before your actual transition. And I think a lot of people forget that especially the mental aspects and your perspective need to change a lot for you to actually take the leap into entrepreneurship. It is a risk. Certain people have a wonderful ability to take that risk more easily than others because they're in different financial situations. Maybe they have a spouse that supports them, or some seed money to get started with, or a bit of family help, whatever the case may be. There are people who have that jump be easier than others. For others, it is not so easy. I worked for almost a decade to save up, to build my nest egg, to be able to feel like I had a runway for success so that I had a little bit of a cushion in case I came falling. So that helped me tremendously because business does go up and down and there are a lot of startup costs. I did take my sweet jolly time, and originally I wanted to get 1 year of living costs, and then that I still didn't feel comfortable with, and so I did 2 years of living costs. And it took me a long time to mentally prepare to cut ties and to take on that risk. It was also very challenging lovingly, because I say this lovingly because my family does love me, but doesn't always support my ideas and challenges them in quite challenging ways. It's hard when you really respect their opinions and they're telling you not to do something. Yeah, everything's so safe, everything's so secure, you get paid well to do what you're doing. Why take the risk? Why do this? And you can't always rely on the people that you love the most to support your decisions, even though they may support you once you've made the decision. They may try to dissuade you from making that decision, and that can be very, very challenging. So have a little bubble where you talk to the people that you talk to that will support you, who you open up to. And sometimes that's just yourself. Sometimes it's a bit of a lonely road. I'm not going to lie. For me, it was a pretty lonely road because I didn't have any other entrepreneurial friends. I could tell people that I was going to do something, and other people might not have a vested interest enough to dissuade me from doing it. But they weren't altogether super helpful other than just sharing my ideas. So know that your ideas are your babies. You've got to build your own strength and fortitude to make this decision. And you need to do what you desire to make that decision acceptable in your mind. So for me, it was saving up for multiple years so that I have 1 to 2 years of living costs banked so that I could start without being stressed. That was really important for me. And it gave me a tremendous amount of ability to fall and ability to make mistakes, as we all do. So I think it's important to think of that when you're thinking of moving from one decision to another in entrepreneurship. So, in employee situations, the next things that you encounter is that you have someone telling you what to do. The challenge with entrepreneurship is that you don't have anybody telling you what to do, or you may have investors or people that want something or employees that think something, right? But really, truly, no one's giving you the yellow brick road to take to find out where you're going. You have to use that experimentation that I mentioned before to determine the way that you want to go. And you have to weigh some really hard, challenging decisions. And you might have multiple different stakeholders or multiple different ideas or things pulling you in different directions from making a decision and moving forward with a decision. So when you're trying to think of how to evaluate that, you have to use the information you have and make a decision in a timely manner and make the decision as best as you can. So that's the point where I like to listen to podcasts. I like to read books. I like to absorb so much information all the time, my entire life, so that when it comes to making a decision, I feel like I can ask the questions I need to ask. I can gather the information I need to gather to be able to make an informed decision. And I trust my gut. And actually, we're going to get into that in a second, but I trust my decision, I should say, because I don't always have a gut reaction to something. Everybody has differences in how they process things. I think certain people innately have good gut decisions, have good instincts, all those things. I don't. It's not a reliable thing for me. When I do have a very strong feeling, I do believe in following that and honoring that, but it's not like I have a strong feeling a lot of the time. Most of the time, I'm making educated guesses and educated decisions all throughout my life, and then they're just stacking up to either work in my favor or not, and the goal is that they work more in my favor than they don't. So that is entrepreneurship at its literal basis amount. You are making decisions every day. Not every one of them is going to be good. Not every one of them is going to be what you need. But the goal is to make the best decisions that you can with the information that you have, pivot quickly, be able to make decisive action and take good action to a good end and recover quickly, right? And the goal is to stack up things so that they're more in your favor than not. You're not going to be right about everything. You're not even maybe going to be right about 70% of everything. But the goal is that you're so right about some things that you're able to carry the weight of your bad decisions. So I don't stress out about whether a decision is the right decision or not. I'm confident that there is no right decision, but I am even more confident that if I can make an educated decision, an informed decision, and take it far enough with as few resources as necessary to get a litmus test of that, and then I go further with it. I like to make a lot of small bets in business before I ever make big bets. And that's kind of been my way for success. But I think the most important thing to understand is your decision-making style, how you feel comfortable making decisions, how you may need to hedge your bets and make backup plans to place in case your decisions aren't going the way that you want. So what is it about your decision-making process that helps you be successful is more important than anything that I can share with you. But I do want to share with you what my process is in case it's helpful in any way to you. So some of the things that you can think about throughout your mindset shifts that you're working through with entrepreneurship is security versus risk taking. And there's going to be certain areas of your business and life that you feel you need more security and where you can take more risks. That's where I like to make a lot of small bets. And then execution versus vision setting. Some people really get so wrapped up in needing to test something out in their mind or needing to prepare or needing to have a vision that they don't take action. And then some people take action before even thinking of their vision. To me, I feel like I'm very decisive in both and I move quickly in both. And that has been incredibly helpful. And then scalability and stability versus adaptability. For me, it's much more important for me to be adaptable than it is for me to be stable, but I've also built that like a muscle. I was a lot more stressed early on about instability, about changes, about things being up in the air than I am currently. Now I'm a lot more flexible and a lot more adaptable and a lot less emotionally involved in my business because I have built that muscle over time. All of these things are muscles that you can build over time. So if you're having trouble, you have a lot of fear, how do you embrace that risk? In my opinion, it's just like a relationship. I don't think that you should end a relationship when you're not ready to end a relationship. I don't think that you should make a hard decision when you're not ready to make a hard decision. While I do find that it's important to take action and set vision and move forward, I just don't think that it's this idea that you're jumping off a cliff. I personally wouldn't jump off most cliffs. I have jumped off some pretty big ones, but I personally wouldn't jump off most cliffs without doing some due diligence, without doing some research, without having some sort of parachute that's going to come out and help me if I need it. So if you have fear, I would identify why you have fear, whether that's rational fear or non-rational fear, and address that fear. If you legitimately think you could fail and it would bankrupt you, well, maybe it's not the decision that you need to be making right now. Maybe you could make a smaller bet somewhere to test that and get more confidence and then feel better about making the decision. It's going to have a greater consequence. To me, I'm not making bet the company decisions on a daily basis. I'm making informed decisions that are not always easy on a daily basis and letting those stack up. But I don't believe in just jumping off the cliff per se. As you can see, I spent a long time saving up to be an entrepreneur. To me, that was worth it. I just don't believe that you have to throw out all of your fear and not be fearful at all and just do what you do and consequences be damned. I think that if you have nigglings in your mind, that's your intuition telling you that you need to shore something up or you need to address something before you move forward. With that said, I say this from a place of deep understanding that I am always going to be uncomfortable, and I do not mind that. So I am not confusing this with the fact that you do need to be uncomfortable and that you will be uncomfortable, because change is inevitably uncomfortable. It's inevitably going to scare you. It's inevitably going to bring up the things inside you that need to be addressed. What I am saying is you don't go forward without addressing the things inside you that's coming up. That is how entrepreneurship is the playground for self-development, because it will show you all of the things that you need to work on, but you can't just throw yourself off a cliff and not work on those things. Good luck if you do. I don't think it's the right decision, but I would not be the person that says courage is not the absence of fear. It is the will to take action. I don't know the quote, but the will to take action anyways, something like that, right? To me, there's a huge difference between fear, inability to move forward, and being uncomfortable. I like to make good, educated guesses. You do you on what makes sense for you and your business, but I would not be putting myself through daily heartaches and insane stress, live or die, survive. You'll have plenty of survival mode challenges in economic downturns and outside forces. That would not be my mode of operation, but obviously you need to support and chase what makes the most sense for you. So for me, what scared me the most was financial stability. So I addressed it, and then I made a decision, and then I was better for it because I had addressed the issue that I knew would happen in some sort of fashion or form. And then obviously, if you're just getting delulu and making things up in your head, then you don't just move forward with the fear. You address the fact that you're delulu and need to have a reality check and need to work on your confidence and capabilities. So all of these things are just showing you what you need to work on. That risk tolerance that I mentioned, I do believe builds over time. So I do think that not only are you going to be able to strengthen your decision making, but you're also going to be able to strengthen that risk tolerance. With that said, I think that it's important that you strengthen them both at the same time so that you're not taking outsized risks with no experience and then setting yourself up for failure. You need to work on your risk tolerance and your decision-making skills at the same time, and hopefully you're always ahead on your knowledge and experience than you are on your risk-taking, so that you're taking on risk that's proportional to what you can handle. I would endeavor to never make decisions that will essentially outweigh your risk to tolerance. But each entrepreneur is going to have to, at some point, I think, take a risk that they feel a little bit uncomfortable with. But to me, uncomfortable is very different than fear. Then let's go back to the circle of self-discipline and the challenge of that self-discipline without external struggle. I talked about how to make sure that you're not lighting your whole business on fire, but let's talk about like some little things that you can do to be more accountable. And I think that accountability is one of the biggest things. So whether you need project management or calendars or systems and processes or managers or someone else to be responsible for something, there are a lot of habits, systems, and things that you can do within your business to help you learn how to manage your time, set your goals, and stay accountable to them. I have a lot of checks and balances in my whole business and life. To me, I like to think about it as the US government, but in my own little ecosphere. So the US government has the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch. All of them have checks and balances to weigh one another's power. So for me, I like to have those checks and balances in my own life as well. I have to say, though, I am so personally driven internally that I need very little externally to motivate me, but I need more systems. So you have to identify, do you need external motivation? Do you need internal motivation? Do you need systems? What is it that you need to have self-discipline? And I also have to say that I don't think that self-discipline is absolutely everything if you are good enough at working around it. I know that I am better at being inspired than being disciplined, but I'm incredibly driven. So it all goes back to knowing you, knowing yourself, and how to work around yourself so that you don't destroy the whole place is the goal. And then how do you take that vision that you have and take ownership of that and communicate that? So I'm always dreaming. For me, that's very easy. But for you, it might be in terms of spending time and blocking off time or going for a walk or thinking of environments that you more easily dream, and then taking those dreams, writing them down, and then expanding upon them. And I always think of anything that I want to come to reality, how can I build and breathe life into it? How can I get people around it? How can I give it life of its own? What do I need to do to be able to breathe life into ideas? So those are a few different things to think about when thinking of how your mentality and perspective needs to change from being an employee to an entrepreneur. I hope that this episode has been helpful. We have so many other good ones coming down the pipeline, so I hope that you subscribe, share this with your friends, tag us on social media at Laura M. DiFrancesco, at Flourish Westchester. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a comment in the Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're listening, and let us know what would you like to see in the next episode. Thank you. Cheers. See you in the next episode.